Welcome to the Feeding Our Young podcast. Have you ever heard the phrase, nurses eat their young? Feeding Our Young is more than a podcast. It's a movement. It's a desire to see new nurses of all ages be supported and uplifted by their peers. And it starts with me, and it starts with you. So join host Eric Miller, registered nurse of nearly 20 years, and adjunct clinical instructor, and today's honors guest, which is me, Dr. Tiffanie Rampley, and be ready to have your life uplifted so you can, in turn, uplift others. Welcome to the Feeding Our Young podcast.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the Feeding Our Young podcast. Today is a very special episode. We are calling it Congested Monday because we're recording this in the middle of the start, really, of summer of 2025, and there is a cold going around, and I've got a little bit of it. My honored guest has got a little bit of it, and we're going to not share it with you. With that, without further ado, I'd like to introduce an honored guest who practically needs no introduction. I have been looking forward to speaking with her for quite some time. The one, the only, Dr. Tiffanie Rampley. Tiffanie, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Eric. It's so great to be here. And I'm a little congested as well, so.
And so we shall be, well, misery loves company, right? We'll just be congested together, and we will get through this conversation in some way, shape, or form. With that, Tiffanie, I'm not going to waste any time here because I know you've got an incredible story to share. But why don't you, if you don't mind, introduce yourself to the lovely audience. Who are you and what position do you hold?
Okay, so my name is Tiffanie Rampley, and currently I'm at Washington State University College of Nursing, and I'm the director of the pre-licensure BSN program. I have oversight of our Spokane campus, our Yakima campus, and our Tri-Cities campus. So it's a very large program. If you don't know, we are the largest undergrad nursing program in the state. So we graduate more nurses than any other school in the state. And then July 1st, I will be taking a new position where I will be the department chair. So my boss, Dr. Vicki Denson, is retiring in 1 week. So I'm being promoted up to department chair. So I will have the pre-licensure BSN program in my department, our RN to BSN program. And then we have a new exciting program starting. It's a pre-licensure master's in nursing program will start in next June, May. I think we'll admit the first students in May. And that's for students who already have a bachelor's degree in something, but they want to be a nurse. And so why would you want 2 bachelor's degrees when you can get a master's in nursing? So I'll have those 3 programs underneath me starting in July. And we just hired a new pre-licensure master's program director who will also start July 1st.
My goodness. Well, okay, so in rapid fire then, congratulations. Oh my goodness, had no idea. And God be with you, because, oh my goodness, that sounds like you're going to be an even busier lady than you've been in the time that I've known you.
So I'm glad you caught me now.
Oh my goodness. You're hearing it here first, ladies and gentlemen. We've got Tiffanie in studio before... I can't even... No, I'm not even going to let my mind wrap around the things that you're going to be in charge of. But that is an incredible honor, and I'm so... Thank you so much for taking time to speak to our nursing students, because I know... in the interactions that I've had with you, how passionate you are for the nursing students of tomorrow, or the nursing students of today, the nurses of tomorrow, as the case may be.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Well, obviously, in these roles, you hold numerous degrees, I imagine. If you don't mind just sharing ever so briefly, what degrees have you obtained, and when did you obtain them?
Yes, and when we talk later, too, I'll go a little bit more into my extensive career, but my first degree is a BSN, Bachelor's of Science in Nursing, and I graduated from Auburn University in Alabama. But I did most of my prereqs at University of Alaska in Anchorage. Then my first master's degree is a master's in leadership and management through Webster University, and that was on Fairchild Air Force Base, the Extension campus. And then my second master's degree is in military science, and I got that it's called Air Command and Staff College, Air War College through the military. And then I did a postgrad in global health and development. So I have a postgraduate certificate, global health and development from University of Arizona. And then I finished my PhD from University of Arizona in 2018.
Oh,
so
my goodness.
In there. Yeah.
A lot of schooling and a lot of schooling from all over. I cannot wait to hear your story. So let me... It's obvious you love to learn, and we'll talk about that here shortly. Before we do, let's just get out those normal intro questions. What 3 words, Dr. Tiffanie Rampley, have you chosen to describe nursing school?
I chose rigorous, enlightening, and powerful.
Ooh, I love it. And do you have 3 favorite songs in life right now?
I do. So the first one... and anyone that knows me well knows this one. It's Don't Stop Believing by Journey. I love Journey. I love everything about Journey. I know every Journey song. I've seen Journey in concert about 9 times now. Just went and saw them in Nashville, Tennessee in March. I go every year, sometimes twice a year. I follow Journey. So
oh my
love
goodness.
Journey and love that song. The second is Try from Pink. I went and saw Pink in Las Vegas last year. She's pretty powerful as well. And what I love about that song, the words that always, like if I'm having a hard day, one of the lyrics is, just because it burns doesn't mean you're going to die. You got to get up and try. So sometimes when we feel like, oh, we're having such a bad day and it hurts so bad, it's like, it might hurt right now, but you're probably not going to die. You just got to get up and try. So I love that song. And then my other favorite song right now is No Regrets from Edith Piaf. So if you don't know who Edith Piaf is, she was a French singer from the 40s. And I love old songs from the 40s and 50s. And so she has this song called No Regrets. And it's all about living life to its fullest, living unapologetically, and living without regrets. So most of the song's all in French, but that's what the meaning is. And it's just a really cool song.
Oh my goodness. Well, I cannot wait. We have a Feeding Our Young Honored Guest Spotify playlist, which I'll happily send your way. But those 3 songs are definitely going to be added to that. So
perfect. Another thing that's funny is we've been buying albums lately, and so I went to one of the stores. I think is it called Finley's or Finn's? And I went in to buy the record, and the guy said, I don't know what is going on. He said, but this is my last Edith Piaf record. He said, she's making this comeback. He said, everyone's been coming in trying to buy her record. He had 1 left in, so.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks to the timelessness of I think what every artist strives for, and I guess in a way what we hope to strive for here on the podcast as well are these recordings that just hopefully stand the test of time and that speak to people well beyond. I mean, you said the 40s and 50s, right? So this is 80 years ago that this woman is impacting people today. Oh, that's amazing. Well, then I almost, for the sake of time, I almost don't want to do it, but I'm going to do it anyway. Let's, Dr. Tiffanie Rampley, you are willing to undergo the patent not pending, unofficial Feeding Our Young personality test. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Once we hear all of the answers to your questions, these 5 questions, we'll know exactly what type of person you are. I'm so excited. You can give them rapid fire, or you can give rationale if you feel compelled. Starting with the first question. Aisle seat or window seat?
Window.
Would you rather never be able to go out during the day or never be able to go out at night?
That's a tough one. Day.
Day. Would you rather never have to wait in line or always have a parking spot?
Always have a parking spot.
That didn't even take thought at all. Would you rather lose the ability to lie or believe everything you're told?
Believe everything I'm told.
Wonderful. And the very last one. Would you rather have one wish granted today or 10 wishes granted 10 years from now?
One today.
One today. Well, the results are in, Tiffanie. You are outstanding. Congratulations. Yay. Just confirming what you hopefully already knew. All right, enough with the games, fun and games, just to open up and do kind of loosen us both up and hopefully loosen up this congestion. My apologies to everybody. The other thing that we have going on here, I have no bones about sharing the issues that go on in the podcast. I cannot mute myself today because when I do, we go all garbly with the recording. And it happened earlier. So I get to sniffle and I don't get to mute it. So my apologies to you, Dr. Rampley, but also this is going to be a fun ride. Without further ado, let's go all the way back to the beginning, which is usually a great place to start. Why nursing, Tiffanie?
This, I have a very interesting career that has taken so many different turns and paths, and so hopefully the listeners will find some inspiration into just go with the flow, and when life sends you opportunities, definitely grasp onto those.
Mm-hmm.
So in high school, my mom had a friend that worked at a nursing home, and she needed some people to help out in the activities department and then also in the kitchen. So I got a job working in the activities department and then also as a dietary aide. And I just loved it. I loved the residents. I loved the people. I just knew right then that I wanted to become a nurse. So the summer between my junior and senior year, I went and got my CNA license at the Spokane Skills Center. I grew up here in Spokane. I went to high school here in Spokane, and then worked at the nursing home as a nursing assistant, and thought, all right, I'm going to go to nursing school. But when I graduated from high school, I felt just a little lost. Like, I don't know where to go, what to do. I felt like I just needed to do something adventurous. So I had a friend who had joined the Air Force, and she came home on leave, and she was working as a medic in the Air Force, and it sounded so exciting and so fun. And I had another friend that took me out to Fairchild Air Force Base, and I saw the planes taking off, and I said, I'm joining the Air Force. I need an adventure, and I'm joining right now.
Wow.
And so I went down to the MEP station and signed up. I didn't tell my parents. I signed up, and I came home and said, I joined the Air Force today. And my parents were not happy. They, lack of a better term. Yeah, so my dad said, no, my little girl is not going in the military. And my mom said that I didn't like authority, and I don't know where that came from. But she said, so I don't know why you would, want to go into the military. But I told them that I really just needed an adventure. I said, I just want to go for a couple years and, see where it goes. And then I'll come back and go to college, or I'll get money for college, whatever. So in August of 1990, so now you know how old I am, I went off to basic training in San Antonio, Texas. So did basic training for 6 weeks there. And I joined as a medic. So then I went to medic school, also in San Antonio, Texas. Stayed in San Antonio for about a year working as a medic, and then got stationed in Elmendorf, Alaska. So it's in Anchorage, Alaska. And there I worked it was called an aeromedical technician. And so basically we were medics that were I was assigned to a fighter squadron. So of F-15s. And so F-15 fighter squadron. So my job was to make sure that the pilots and the air crew were medically clear to fly and take care of the aircraft. And so that was a really cool job. And while I was doing that, I started taking classes at University of Alaska, Anchorage for pre-nursing, all my pre-nursing requisites. And Then the Air Force sent me, I did 4 years there, and they sent me to Montgomery, Alabama. So there, I was just finishing my prerequisites and applied to nursing school at Auburn University in Alabama, got accepted there. So went to nursing school on the Air Force. So that was
Yeah.
nice as well. Did 2 years there. And then while I was in nursing school, which in Auburn was an excellent nursing school, I really, felt lucky to have gone to such a great nursing school. I didn't know anything about Alabama or the South. It was my first time ever in the South. It was a little bit of a culture shock coming from Washington State, but
Mm-hmm.
really loved it there. And then in nursing school, my first day in ICU, when I did my ICU rotation, I fell in love with critical care. And I said, this is where I'm going to work. And when I graduated, I needed to do a year before getting commissioned into the Air Force. And so I convinced the nurse manager of the cardiac ICU it was called Baptist Health Hospital in Montgomery, Alabama, to hire me as a new grad. And I said, I have military experience. I was a medic. I already know how to start IVs and do quite a bit of stuff. And so she took a chance on me, and I did my first year in cardiac ICU. And then
Wow.
after that, and I don't know if I recommend that.
That was what I was going to ask you. Like, a pause in the journey at the moment, because my goodness, already you're doing prerequisites while in the military. If you want to speak a little more towards how challenging that might be, and now the challenge of jumping into the cardiac ICU despite your medic training right out of nursing school.
Yeah, so challenging. I love school. I love education. And so doing the prereqs all while I was working full time in the military was, to me, it was just exciting because I was young, and, I think I had a lot more energy then as well than I do now. But I just couldn't wait to go to classes. And to me, it was a dream to go to nursing school. And so doing the prereqs was, I put everything I had into it. So I had to go in the evenings and weekends. Now, I had really great bosses in the military, and because some of my classes, like especially when I got to anatomy and physiology, they were only at certain times.
Mm.
And so I had to come to the clinic early, and I opened up the clinic every day at 6 a.m. I left for 2 hours in the middle of the day to go to school, and then I had to close the clinic in the evening. I was always the last one there, and those were my extra hours that I had to do so that I could go to school during the times that they were offered. Like chemistry was only offered at a certain time. But I had these great bosses that knew that my dream was to finish these prereqs and go to nursing school. So it was great. So yeah, they were super supportive. And then in nursing school, I only had to do one weekend a month with the Air Force Reserves to keep my time. And that was pretty minimal. And the rest I could go to school full time.
Very
So I
nice.
felt pretty lucky there. Yeah, and then when I graduated, I didn't realize what a large learning curve ICU was going to be, even with my medic training. I mean, it was much different, of course, but I loved it. But it was, and when I graduated from nursing school, there was no nurse residency
Right.
I had 6 weeks of orientation, and that was it.
Sink
Yeah,
or swim.
it was total sink or swim learning, ventilators. And I went to cardiac ICU, and so we had at the time Swan-Ganz catheters and ice injectate and like things that we don't really do anymore in the ICU, but it was a big learning curve. And then after that 1 year, I had the cardiac enough of ICU experience that I commissioned into the Air Force as a second lieutenant, as an
Mm.
ICU nurse. And yeah, so that was great. So that's what I wanted. So my first duty station was Biloxi, Mississippi. It was called Keesler Air Force Base, and it was a combination cardiac ICU, medical ICU, and surgical ICU. I think we had 32 beds. It was pretty busy ICU, but it was great. Once I got into the military, then there was a lot more training. They sent us to all kinds of training classes. And while I was there, they were starting a new program called Critical Care Air Transport. We call it CCAT now. And now it's like, you know, world renowned. I mean, there's
Wow.
all kinds of like articles about, how great the Air Force Critical Care Transport team is. But it was brand new. It was a new course. And so the Air Force sent me to San Antonio, Texas to learn to be a critical care air transport nurse. So I went through the altitude chamber, did all kinds of flight training. And so what we did is flew critical patients. At the time, we weren't in the middle of a war. So at the time, we were
Yeah.
flying patients just within the United States. So if we had a patient who needed to be transferred to one of our other military medical centers, like we flew patients quite a bit to San Antonio, which is where the large Air Force Medical Center was at the time, or to California. Every once in a while, we'd fly patients over to California. And so we would fly, it would be a nurse, a critical care nurse, a critical care physician, and a respiratory therapist. That was the team. So
Oof.
those three, and we could have up to 2 patients at that time. I know now, sometimes during wartime, they'll have a few more than that. But at the
Yeah.
time, we could have up to 2 patients, and we would fly usually with the regular medevac team, or every once in a while, would fly the Air Force has some smaller private jets that we would sometimes fly patients if they needed to get out urgently and we didn't have a crew to take us. But it was an excellent experience and really cool to do, cool to say. I did that. So yeah, very cool. Well, by then I'd been, I guess, critical care nurse about 4.5 years, and the Air Force said, okay, you need to do something different next. The Air Force loves diversity and loves nurses that
Yeah.
have like a real depth of knowledge. And I said, well, what are my choices? And they said, we're desperate for labor and delivery nurses. I mean, just desperate. And you can go anywhere you want if you'll become a labor and delivery nurse. And I said, I don't know.
Thanks, but I'm
So,
not quite
yeah,
sure
I
I'm
don't
sold on
know.
that one.
So I went one night, I called one of my friends that works labor and delivery at the hospital, and I said, can I come over and just shadow you for a night and see what it's like? And I went from the loud, chaotic beeping and noises of the ICU to this kind of quiet environment
Hmm.
and very regulated. And the patients had one IV and you could talk to them. And I thought, and I really wanted to go to California. I wanted to go back to the West Coast. And we had people that are assigned to us to tell us like where our next assignments were going. Our assignment officer, that's what it was. My assignment officer said, if you do labor and delivery, I will send you to California within the next month. And I said, okay, I'll do it.
Wow.
So I went to Travis Air Force Base in Fairfield, California, just outside of Napa for I think I had 6 months of training in labor and delivery.
Mm.
And yeah, so it was excellent experience. And my critical care really helped in some of those instances too. I mean, labor and delivery is definitely a critical area. I
For
mean, you have
sure.
to be on your toes all the time. Things can change so quickly. Well,
Yeah.
while I was in California, our chief nurse sent an email out and said, would anyone like to go to England? We're desperate for labor and delivery nurses in England. And so I emailed her back and said, I want to go to England. And she said, can you leave in 6 weeks? I need someone who can leave right now. And I said, sure, easy to
Sounds like
pack
a
up my stuff.
plan.
Sounds like a plan. So I went it's called Lakenheath, England. So it's a base just north of Cambridge, maybe about 2.5 hours north of London. So I spent 2 years there as a labor and delivery nurse. And while I was there were it was a small hospital. Sometimes there weren't even physicians in house, except for one ER physician. I delivered 9 babies on my own. I delivered one in the hallway. I delivered one in base housing. I delivered one in their car in the parking lot.
Oh
And
my
yeah,
goodness.
so it was a crazy experience, but an excellent experience. I learned very independent, and we were very short staffed. Sometimes there was only one nurse in labor and delivery and one nurse in postpartum. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes in postpartum, you would have 8 couplets by yourself.
Oh.
Yeah. So it was very, so we, as a collective, our small nursing group, and we had Air Force technicians who are very highly trained that helped us too, and they did quite a bit. But we wrote to the Air Force chief nurse and said, "This is very unsafe. We need more staff
Yeah.
here." Luckily, nothing critical ever happened, but we said this is very unsafe, and we were
It's
working every day, and
like you're
this
sitting on
is
a time bomb. I mean, anything, it just takes one thing. Goodness
yeah.
gracious.
And we were like, we worked so hard to make sure that nothing happened, but we were like, this is unsafe. And then there were really a couple shifts I worked where I was the only trained critical care nurse in the hospital. Like we had a patient that had a C-section, and can't remember all that happened, but had to be intubated and then was on some pressors. And so they were calling up to this one bed ICU, and none of the nurses up there had ever given these pressors before.
Oh.
So I said, well, I guess I'm taking this patient too. And so I cared for her in our one bed ICU. But after we had voiced our concern, they increased all the staffing at that hospital. And now I heard that they have 4 nurses on every shift, and they're following all the A1 regulations of
Oh, wow.
staffing. So that made me feel much better that, you can very professionally voice your concern and write a letter and have we had very good examples of this, where we needed staff and why. And so, but it was, labor and delivery was just never, I learned a lot, but it wasn't my first love. I really, really missed critical care. So after I left England, I joined a reserve unit where I could do critical care air transport and critical care in California.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that for a year. And then there was an opportunity that came up back here in Spokane to be the flight commander out of Fairchild. And so after California, I came back to Spokane and worked out at Fairchild Air Force Base, which was great, and bought a house on the South Hill. And that's when I started working supplemental at Sacred Heart on 2 South. So I worked on 2 South critical care from 2006 to 2008, and worked quite a bit there. And also while I was at Fairchild, they said, well, and I kept my critical care. In the military, it's kind of like when you get certified, here you get certified, like as a CCRN, there you have a job code, and on that job code, you have an indicator of what your specialty is. And so then the Air Force starts looking around, like a G means you're a labor and delivery nurse, and E means you're critical care, and M is med surg. There's an F for flight nurse. There's one for ER. So you have these specialty codes. And
And I'm
so,
assuming you can carry more than one at a time?
yeah. So I carried the ICU and the labor and delivery code.
Yeah.
Both. And they said, we see that you're a critical care nurse, and so you're being deployed to Afghanistan as a critical care nurse. And I said, okay, because I was labor and delivery and we were so short-staffed in England, my name had never come up as getting deployed.
Yeah.
And so they said, yep, you're going to Bagram, Afghanistan as a critical care nurse. And so in 2008, I went to Afghanistan and spent 6 months at Bagram, Afghanistan, working in the ICU.
Oh.
And usually when people ask me about it, I was like, it was a great experience and a awful experience at the same time. I learned so much, and the team that we worked with was so close. I mean, I'm still friends with them to this day. I mean, we're still super close for just those 6 months that we were together. But we took care of Afghan National Army patients. We took care of all coalition patients. So that was U.S. Now, the U.S. patients we'd get were out very quickly. We had a medevac that came in all the time. They went to Germany. So those patients would come in with different types of blast injuries, but we would get them out as quick as we could. We also took care of, like we had Canadian forces, German, Polish, anyone who was there that, was part of the coalition, we would take care of them. And then the other piece that we took care of that I wasn't prepared for, because they sent me to Baltimore shock trauma in Baltimore for 3 weeks before going to Afghanistan. Because Baltimore shock trauma, if you don't know, is the only dedicated trauma hospital in the US. So
Oh,
we
wow.
have, the whole hospital is just trauma. Everything that comes in the ER is trauma. Everything that's in the ICU there is trauma. So I spent a week and a half in their ER and a week and a half in the ICU just taking care of trauma patients. A lot of gunshot wounds, gang members, lots of different motor vehicle accidents. But the military, we had an agreement with Baltimore shock trauma that anyone that was going to go to critical care or get deployed would go through Baltimore shock trauma before deploying, because that was the best place to try to get you,
Ready.
as ready as you can, because it's just pure trauma. And so I felt pretty prepared for the traumas that we take care of that were ours in our coalition, but we took care of a lot of Afghan children. I was not prepared. One, I'm not a pediatric nurse, and I just was not prepared at all for taking care of the kids. Then they said, well, you worked labor and delivery and you worked newborn nursery. You have more pediatric training than other nurses here. You're going to be in our PICU. And I thought, I don't have any pediatric training. These were healthy newborns I took care of. So, but I ended up loving it. And the pediatrician we worked with was great. And we really came up with, we had to call to Germany and send pediatric, we didn't have pediatric ET tubes. We didn't have we didn't have any pediatric supplies.
Yeah.
But the Afghan people would sometimes just come and drop their kids off at the front gate. And so there was another hospital there run by the Koreans. It was a Korean pediatric hospital. So once we could get the children stabilized, we would send them to that hospital. But some of the kids would come in that were playing, we had a little boy who was playing soccer and stepped on a landmine, lost the bottom of his leg. But his dad would say to us, yeah, but he has the other one, because there were so many kids that were like this. He was like, well, it was only one. We would think, oh my goodness. But the Navy had a really, really phenomenal hospital that they would fit the kids for prosthetics, and they would fit them throughout life. And so a lot of the kids were kind of used to it, which was, it was hard for us to understand, how resilient these kids were.
Yeah.
But we took care of tons of children. And the other thing that was really interesting to us is, except for one little girl that we took care of, her mother came. Other than that, the women weren't allowed. So women can't travel. Women couldn't come to our hospital. It would be a dad or an uncle or a brother that would sit with the kids. Never did we ever see the mom. And we had, really good interpreters, and I'd ask the interpreter, where's the mom? And they were like, moms aren't allowed to travel and they're not allowed to leave the village. And so I just thought, that's got to be so tough for this mom to wonder where their kid is, right?
Yeah, and how they're doing, and you know what I mean? Did they survive? And oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah, so that part, was wow. But we felt, that if we could, the one piece of the war that we thought maybe we could at least try to influence is, if they see us as these compassionate, caring people and we're providing this care to these kids. And they did a lot of cleft lip and cleft palate surgeries there too, to try, to give back. That was our humanitarian piece, is that if we can show, the people that, we're compassionate people, maybe, we could we could help out in that way. And so we got to know, the whole we had 2 kids that were there the whole 6 months I was there. There was one little girl that was there for a year,
Mm.
and she had swallowed a watch battery, and so she had a trach. And the U.S., after 2 years, finally got enough money. They sent her to Cincinnati Children's to get it all repaired and then sent back to Afghanistan. But yeah, so those 6 months were definitely like one of those times in my career. I was like, okay, I'm in the military. I've been training for this. But
Yeah.
until you go there and see it, it was like, wow.
So two questions pop in my brain based on what you're saying. And if it's okay with you, what I'm going to do, I'd like to ask you those 2 questions, have you respond to those 2 questions, and then we'll just kind of pivot real quick and turn you into a double episode, if that's okay. It's
Yeah.
not extra time on your part for the most part. It
Yeah.
just means that if I know we've got a little bit more than an hour, because I know there's a lot more you want to share,
Yeah.
I'd love to encapsulate that into 2 episodes, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
Wonderful. But I want to pause at this moment here because my goodness, first of all, this is a perspective, like I'm a homebody. I've admitted that. This is, Spokane is basically Washington State is where I've lived, grown up, and all the things. Never been into the military myself. I have nothing but the greatest respect for you and everyone that has served. But I just knew very early on I was the opposite. I knew it was not for me. I'm just sitting here along with everybody listening going, I just want to hear more. So with that, you talk about taking care of so many patients within this coalition, for example,
Yeah.
and you kind of touched on it briefly, but I'm just thinking how much of a pain in the rear in the hospitals it is to sometimes use Marty the translator, the electronic translator. How did you guys address translator services? And B, I'm going to give you both questions at the same time so you can decide how you want to order that. But B, you're like you said, you knew you were going in the military. You knew you were prepared for this as well as you could be, but yet this is, we talk about trauma bonding in nursing school, and that's a thing, but it's not. This is trauma bonding. You talk about these wonderful people you served with, and you're like, we still communicate to this day for obvious reasons. How do you deal with that day in and day out of the trauma that you see there with these missing limbs and on kids and adults and all of it all together?
I think what was different in 2008 than what it is now, then we didn't really talk about it. Now I think we're a lot more open, like, wow, today's really bothering me. I need to go home and rest. The other thing is we were so busy. You work 6 12-hour shifts and you get one day off. And even on that one day off, you're doing like laundry and like cleaning. And I shared a dorm, I called it a dorm room, I don't know what it was, but with three other people. So I had like a little pod in my room, and then we had 2 bathrooms in our whole dorm. And so you're like cleaning, doing laundry, there was a couple stores, on the base, so you could do a little bit of shopping. And there was a beauty salon. Yeah. I used to laugh, like, I was like, oh, I'm getting my hair cut with a 9mm, like, in my holster while I'm getting my hair cut. And tanks are like going by on the road as I'm getting my hair done. This is very strange.
This is not something you anticipated experiencing in your career.
No, you just think, oh, this is really odd. But I think some of it you do, like, I'd worked in the ICU for a while. And so it's kind of like, okay, in your brain, you think it's just another ICU, getting the patient from the ER. Most of the coalition forces spoke English, or they brought an interpreter with them. We had assigned interpreters that were Afghan nationals that would interpret all for any Afghan patient that we got. So, and those interpreters stayed with us for a long time. And I'm still friends with 2 of my interpreters on Facebook. Like, one just sent me a message the other day because we spent every day together.
Yeah.
And then after 5 years as an interpreter, they get sponsored to come to the U.S. Now, I read that I'm not going to get into politics, but some of our politicians might want to send some of them back. But they did a really great service for us, and I would really hate to see that. And so we all wrote letters at the end of the they would write to us and say, we did our 5-year service. Now we'd like to come to the U.S. and be sponsored.
Yeah.
So to answer your question of how you deal with it, one, it's kind of the same with people who work in ICU now, that you see this every day. And so you try not to take it home. You try to decompress. Went to the gym. The gym was our space. Everyone went to the gym every single day. That was our outlet. I mean, I went every day. I was there. Everybody comes back very fit and trim because that's like one way. And then two, I worked mainly day shift. In the evenings, we would play games, like we had, different board games, and because there's nothing else to do or nowhere else to go. So it's not like, hey, I'm going out to dinner to see my family. I'll see you guys later. It's like, no, we're all there together. The other part that was really difficult was taking care of a prisoner when they came in. So you would hear, we would hear through the radio or through our teams that, a convoy had just been blown up or something, and that it would be they had found the person that did it, and they would bring that person to the ICU for us to take care of. And we were like, or we would have taken care of the soldiers that were in that convoy that morning. And now
you've got the perpetrator.
Yeah. We have somebody from, the Taliban or something that we're now taking care of. And it's like, it was really hard because I would think, okay, how do I now show any sort of compassion or want to give any type of pain medicine to this person that just did this? But same thing, we just said, okay, this is a human being. They're heavily influenced by this other regime. We can't help that, but maybe if we can show them a little bit of compassion or something. But that was, I think, taking care of the kids and taking care of, what we call the enemy was really hard. Yeah, those were the two things where we were like, yeah, it was tough. But you're right. Our team, we all worked together we deployed at the same time, all 6 months together. And we really bonded as a team, and we trusted each other. And the other thing that was sort of nice in a weird way, so they don't have any joint commission. There's no regulation. No one's monitoring our charting, or I charted much more minimally on some of the patients, like the Afghan, nationals. We gave them excellent care, but no one's going to read that chart later. I mean, that's not going to.
Yeah.
When they get discharged, they go back to their village, and, we charted very well, obviously, on our U.S. soldiers before they went to Germany, so they knew what was going on. But I felt like we could give just regular, good bedside care because we were not charting an epic. We're not charting a bunch of extra stuff.
I mean, maybe closer, and what you're describing to me, I feel like maybe you feel closer to the days of Florence Nightingale, right? Like you're there offering the care literally in the trenches, taking care of other human beings and not necessarily having to worry about all this extra stuff we have to worry about in modern day. Yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah. So in that way, it felt very autonomous. We had an excellent relationship with the physicians. We could make some decisions on our own of what we wanted to do. And it was really, in that aspect, I felt like it was like real nursing. You could, like you said, you could just sit by the bedside and, give nursing. You weren't worried about kind of all the extra stuff today.
Getting called into an office and, you know what I mean? Or whatever the case may be.
The administrative stuff wasn't there, all this epic charting and, so it was kind of nice to that piece. But
I love that. And I thank you. We're going to end your first episode on this note because I feel like it's kind of a positive note. Anyone listening to this who is a nurse is going, oh my goodness, you know what I mean? Like the circumstances not ideal. But the benefits from that are totally different. You get closer to that heart of nursing. And man, I'm just like, I'm encouraged just hearing that. So if it's okay with you, Tiffanie, we're going to make the jump to the side B of the Tiffanie Rampley experience, talking about records. All right, well then, you guys, you don't want to miss it, because this just, correct me if I'm wrong, we've just reached up to about 2008, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've only got another 17 years to go. It's fine. We'll encapsulate it in one more hour. So, you guys, you don't want to miss it. She's got an incredible heart, and I'm excited to find out where the journey takes her. So, we'll catch you on the flip side. Here's what's happening on the next episode of Feeding Our Young.
We used to call it exec row because it was just all the aides, and they had their, all the bags of their general. But one of them said to me once, savor this, because this is like a learning lab, a leadership learning lab every single day. And I was like, wow, that's so true. I would watch her in action, and a lot of times she was the only female in the room, or sometimes even the only one from the Air Force, and some of the other services, have very strong personalities. And I would see the way she would act and just how strong she was, but also humble and gracious and kind. It was like a learning lab every single day, being able to follow her around. We also traveled all over the world. And it was really, that's when I thought, okay, maybe leadership is something for me. Maybe there is something I can do. I can advocate. I can, do something from the leadership side.
Did you like today's episode of Feeding Our Young? Let today's honored guests know by emailing us at thanks@feedingouryoung.org. Also, if you are a nursing student, nurse, or a nursing instructor and would like to be featured on a future episode, please email us a few details about yourself at the very special email address mystory@feedingouryoung.org. If you have a question you would like addressed in a future Q&A episode, please send it to q@feedingouryoung.org. For all other inquiries, please email us at info@feedingouryoung.org or text us at area code 509-ALL-THEM, 509-255-8436. We're so excited to have you return to hear our next honored guest. Be sure to follow us on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Feeding Our Young LLC. Again, that's username Feeding Our Young LLC. Until next time, be encouraged and go find someone to encourage today.